calls, no sweat, calibrated like pros. Never split the difference, flows where the convo goes. We don't fold, nah, we negotiate bold. Every Saturday skills refine, turn gold. From silence to that's right, we control the floor. Zoom warriors, breaking down every closed door.
Welcome to another episode of Negotiators on Demand. Last time we had wonderful host Gary Noser. Learned a lot from him, stalling for time. And today we hope to learn a lot from Marshall Jones. As everybody knows, the book I've been recommending a lot, Tonal Influence, forwarded by Chris Voss.
Cold calls, no sweat, calibrated like pros. Never split the difference, flows where the convo goes. We don't fold, nah, we negotiate bold. Every Saturday skills refine, turn gold. From silence to that's right, we control the floor.
There was a moment, Marshall, where you got thrown under the bus by I keep saying by Troy, not Derek. It was Troy. Brought you on stage, 60 seconds or she dies. First time seeing it, I go, nope. They're gonna chew him out and spit him out. He's agreeing to give him a car. Oh man, he's done. And I go, man, why is he's still in the pocket? I go, man, he is holding on he's not even holding on for dear life. He's not even flinching. What? He's comfortable there? At this point, most people would say, do you want a 4-door car or a 2-door car? And so I told Ryan, I noticed something before he started. He did like a slight like he jumped into a roll, like he kind of like, and then you stayed there. You stayed in the pocket. You didn't get triggered. You set the frame with your tone. It was very comforting. And you stayed with your tone. You didn't break out of it. What's your secret to staying? To not only being aware there's going to be butterflies in your gut, but then also telling them where to go.
That's very beautifully said. There'll be butterflies in your gut, but then telling them where to go.
No, you're telling them where to go from what we see. Yeah, you didn't let them, take you down and just, most people, like I said, from what I've seen, would have asked how many doors to the car.
Do you want a sedan? You want?
Yeah. You did not. Is there a system to the madness, to staying calm?
Yeah, I'm actually curious. It makes me wonder what people would say. What is it? I think so. I'll give you a little background on how that even happened. So I go to the up in there. So you go to your first Black Swan event and you're like, all right, cool. You've read the book. You've been inspired by, Never Split the Difference. And, you've seen some of the byproducts of applying the mindsets and everything else. And, you get to a place, you have a company that you're running, and you're like, you want to learn more in person post-pandemic. Go there, and they called for people. Now, mind you, you go to a networking event or you meet a bunch of people who are in business in something like that. Everyone's saying who they are and what they do. So I said who I was and what I did to different people. Man, they called for volunteers. And there was an Aussie sitting right next to me. And my best accent, he goes, hey, mate. Then you say you were like a communications coach or something? I was like, yeah. He was like, all right, good day, like, oh, I should volunteer. And so they call us to the back, take us outside, and they're like, who's going to go first? And this man's voice is ringing. Didn't you say you was this thing? All right. So, all right, fine. I'll go first. And so there's a couple of things that were going on at once. Um, one, the the kind of battle testing of ideas is just a part of my. It's been a part of my practice, inspired by Chris and the Crisis Hotline. You know, the idea that um, he did it, but then I thought about it very much the way any martial artist thinks about sparring, right? Um, you know, you learn the art and you learn the moves. You know, there's like a thing, you know, a kata, or, you know, you do this and then you do that, which is fine. But then those things kind of go out the window when something is coming toward you. You know, that's the thing. The thing that separates it is once objects are now coming to you, your mind now, those responses, when you're doing your kata, there's nothing coming at you. You're going towards an invisible shadow. So you have to simulate what happens if something is coming toward you. So I used to go to bars, breakup fights, things like that. And so the sensation of, oh, this is one of those opportunities right now. Somebody is going to come for me. And, you know, I'm on my my volunteer walk instructor. He would say, you know, you're only as good as your last fight. And that stuck with me, you know, to never rest on the laurels, right? Like, you know, and so it was an opportunity to, okay, here's an environment right now. There's no preparation. There's no one's going to give me anything. I've seen the simulation before online, of course, because, you know, it's a very, by now, in the negotiation world, a very famous sequence. And boom, ring, ring. And the decision was, okay, either I'm a fraud or the things that I've learned work. And so yeah.
And we love, you provided, Ryan reminded me of this example you provided in the book of that fighting spirit with Floyd Mayweather. How, you know, you are we'll say you're the king of the tonality, and the opposite of tonality is silence, right? And we forget how that's like the left hook, and the tone is the right hook or the right punch. And yeah, with Floyd Mayweather, watching him just, you know, do that Philly shell of just the woman's triggering, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. And he stays in there, you know, really on demand. And that's why what the group is called Negotiators on Demand. Because, yeah, you got to be able to be aware, first of all, that you are in a conflict or a negotiation. Yes. That's the first step. Okay. Well, what's the second thing? Now that you're aware, you better get in your, you know, in the military, we call it your fighter stance, your warrior stance. There you go. And I think that's what I saw when you got into that mock, where you did this quick little shift, like, you know, your body, and then you know, you stayed in there, you stayed in the pocket, you trust, lots of trust in your tools. Because at the end of it, you did get the win, even though. For a lot of viewers, like when I was seeing it, I go, "Oh no, he's about to get TKO'd. He's being too accommodating. He's not jumping on him. He's not fighting back." But you were kind of like studying his moves, and then when you went for the attack, it was really good. Closed it. Is that what it's like for you when you find yourself in a situation? I know you mentioned you go looking for them, but I'm sure sometimes they just show up and you're not even aware.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's an interesting thing to think about. You know, sometimes we try to figure out, like, well, what's going on when people start talking to each other, right? Like, you know, you start to create a tree of what leads two people to have a verbal exchange. You know, it's like, okay, there's a guy, his name is B.F. Skinner. He created He wrote a book called Verbal Behavior. It's very fascinating. A lot of his work actually is kind of built into like why the phones are so powerfully, um, for lack of a better word, addictive. A lot of his research on behavior and getting people to do things. But he had this thing called a mand, like a command, a demand. They're like different, but basically it's like you're operating and you want another person to operate. And so sometimes you want them to cooperate with you, but that's not always the case. That's not always what's happening. And so a lot of times we have very dramatized views of what combative language is like. You see movies where people debate or there's an argument, there's drama. Or the and I would like to hear from your perspective, like, as in the military, like there's the film version, like Dunkirk and like, whatever they have you, and they show you like the movie kind of thing. And then there's like what the day-to-day commands are and what the day-to-day communications are and how that actually happens. You give a directive, you give an order, et cetera, et cetera. But we have a very dramatized view. But when you start to look at, okay, well, what are people talking about, talking for? Do I want to inform you of something? Do I want to collaborate with you about something? Do I want to deflect you from me? Basically, do I want you out of my face? We kind of, I think a lot of us have basic assumptions about why people talk to us. And we have experiences based on consistent, I usually get into an argument with my spouse. That's what happens. We have a, like the once a week we're gonna get into a brawl. You kind of know it's coming. You usually will know when the shorts are coming on and the wraps are getting tightened, like before the blows start coming. You like know, or you work at a company and people tell you what to do, or you tell them what to do. Do. It's just a matter of considering the idea that people's words can either feed you or fold you. And so sometimes people are talking to you and it's like, wow, food for thought. Wow, that's, oh, man, scrumptious. Yeah. And then there's somebody just throws a jab, right? Or they say a snide remark, or, they hit you below the belt. We use language that is very physical when we're offended. A slap in the face, a stab in the back.
Yeah.
So to some degree, there must be some neural mechanisms, and to be frank, they've been identified that the same physical defense mechanisms that we will use, same part of the brain is activated socially, and so there isn't really a separation, between someone who's like arm in arm with you, even though they're not literally arm in arm with you, but a comrade in arms with you. That side by side we're doing this together, right? And so you start to take this system of thought and that extra second to know where you are. It's almost like when someone punches you in the face, like, two people fight. And this sometimes, I was talking to a guy, he was a director for the UFC, the UFC, the seasons where they had like a reality show.
Yeah.
And he says, a lot of times there's people that like, they don't know that they're fighting until they get hit. And they go, oh, I'm in a fight. Right?
Yeah.
Right. And then there's the person who knows at any given time or right now we're fighting. And it's
a cold reader.
So, it's the, a mindset of seeing that as an option, of knowing that sometimes somebody's going to try to punch you in the face. It's going to happen. What happens is we get shocked when someone does, we don't expect it. It's not even that somebody insulted us. It has nothing to do with that. To me, in my opinion, what happens, what I believe is you were thinking about whatever you were thinking about, running your own like brain.
About unfairness.
Yeah. And then somebody said something. I was like, whoa,
Like, that wasn't fair.
I'm from. And it had nothing to do with the person having said it. It had to do with the interrupted thinking and the lack of expectation. Because if you expect,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, what's our
So
thing do?
you say in the book, expect to get punched 10 times in the face every day. Is that right?
Yeah, someone's gonna try.
Mm.
Like, it's okay. It's
Okay.
the people that don't
You,
expect it that are bothered by it.
you remind me a lot of, I've been watching, been indulging, not watching, indulging for sure, in street photographers. They follow street photographers, and one of the hot topics is always, people get mad when you take a photo of them. It's kind of disrespectful. And,
Mm-hmm.
they'll say, yeah, I've actually become really good at de-escalation. One of the main things is, kind of ignoring them. Like, no, I was actually taking a picture of something behind you. You just happen, play dumb, right? You can play dumb, like you said. There's strategies, right?
Yes.
And they have them. They're like, one, I can play dumb. Two, sometimes they think I'm trying to charge them for the photo. So actually, it
Yeah.
turns out that they thought I was trying to get money out of them. Uh, but the first step they do is that they stay quiet and just see how the counterpart um, acts towards them,
Yeah.
and then they engage. Obviously trying to de-escalate.
Man, Daniel, hold on one
But
second.
yeah,
I need to put this right here. What's going on?
we do editing, so you're fine.
Oh, great. Good. Because for some reason, oh, I love that. Because saw that little thing in the corner, battery just, but bro, street photographers. I mean, some of them are. This one dude that was ruthless. And he'd be just like,
Yeah.
like just in your face, spin, move, and like be a creeper about it. And then, of course, you got people that we're now much more sensitive. It's like a nice social experiment of like, I just took a snapshot of you, unwarranted, unsolicited.
Oh gosh, so this is the worst.
It is, isn't it? But you know what's powerful about how
But
you
they can
just
flip it.
yeah, yeah, yes. But think about this. If I insult you, isn't that the same? I just took an unsolicited snapshot of who I think you are right now. That's the picture. You're an asshole. Right? And you're like, whoa, who are you? Same thing. So that whether we want to or not, people are going to look at us. And they're going to take pictures of us that they want to take. And so today, the picture is you're a jerk. You're this. You're that. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And sometimes it's like just to get a reaction out of you as the person being being photographed. So there's an interesting kind of two-way. There's the person who's taking the snapshot, and sometimes we're trying our best to take a beautiful picture of
Yeah,
something.
some of them did admit to getting a fix out of it.
Mm,
Like it's just a
yeah,
rush. Uh,
yeah.
do you get a rush out of it? Like when you got thrown up to that stage, um, I think most people will crumble. But for you, that was like, oh, this is the moment. Uh, this is my street photography moment. Just kind
Yo,
of.
man, listen, I used to battle rap. Um, I used to compete as a slam poet.
Oh, so being on a stage in front of 50, 100 people did not play as much of a influence on you as I was like, how is he maintaining composure with 100 eyeballs right at you?
I like, well, look, getting in on the stage does have its nervousness. I think that I for that particular thing, right? Because there was a mind frame and it hit me like in the middle when what is it, the signs of life, you know, it hit me that You're there to save everyone. That includes the person on the phone. For me, because usually the idea is that's the bad guy. The person who's holding the hostages is the bad guy. But you can't think that because biology, anatomy, psychology. If I talk to this person as if they are the enemy, I'm activating subconscious systems to attack that person.
Well, Marshall, I hate to play the devil's advocate here. I've been throwing myself out there in some Facebook negotiations,
Let's do it.
just for the heck of it, right? I've been buying drones off Facebook. And I swear to you, I looked at the counterpart as my enemy. I'm going to get his biggest discount. I'm going to use these tools to maximum effect, no mercy.
Right. Yes.
However, one of the tools is empathy. And so, okay, I did the listening. I got his story. Oh, crap, I can relate to him. Yeah, he tried to do his own plumbing and messed it up. Now he's got to sell this drone, and his dad tried to help him, but made it worse.
Yes.
I'm like, man, I can relate to that. Next thing you know, I fell on my empathy sword. Paid full price. And I talked to the group, and they're going like, you could have come across somebody that probably knows empathy more than you, or maybe naturally are better at it. And I go, yeah, there's some folks out there that you think you're going to get them. You got your methodology, and yeah, sometimes has your tools ever backfired on you?
Yeah, I mean, listen,
I wouldn't even call that a backfire. I don't know what that was, but that was
you wanted to
he was my enemy. I was going to take him down. I was going to get a 50% discount with these tools, but I walked out paying full price because that was a good story,
bro. So what's interesting about that is you paid full price because he made you his friend.
Yeah, I felt like a friend right there. Yeah, in that moment in time. It's like
just for the sense of affiliation from relating to like, whoa, wow, okay, boom. Now, it kind of supports the hypothesis here is he didn't see you as like somebody, and maybe he did. Maybe he saw, I'm gonna get over on this guy. Maybe. You never know. That's the thing about this abstraction, because empathy is really it's abstract thinking at its ultimate, because there's nothing concrete about why empathy works.
And that's why you don't see it in these Harvard mock negotiations. They're so boring. There's no emotional excitement compared to the one you were involved in. It was like night and day.
Absolutely. The thing about the hostage ones is, I think it's what, right? It is. There's an extreme. There are layers, because there's someone who wants to hurt other people, but then also wants to get away, but then also they can't get away because they've committed a crime. And you're actually, here's how it was broken down to me. SWAT is outside waiting for the go a lot of the times, and they're sitting there bored. Can we just shoot them? So when the hostage negotiator is coming, the hostage negotiator is there. I'm trying to save your life, bro. I'm trying to save your life, because there's 6 guys out here that as soon as they see you, they're going to red dot you.
It's like a salesman selling life at that point.
Oh, absolutely.
And as Derek Gahn said, he's selling prison time as well.
For sure. Like, yes.
He's selling life and prison time. Like, it's a big one.
So there's a book called Spy the Lie, Get the Truth, or Spy the Lie, and then it's Get the Truth. They're both written by CIA interrogators. They talk about dignity They said, and they also talked about two kinds of thinking. So basically, you have long-term thinking, which is you're going to jail. You're never going to get a confession when you're telling somebody they're going to jail. So they have different thought tracks like this will say, we understand that things just happen sometimes. And, sometimes we're just, like we're just not in our right mind and we just made a decision we wouldn't normally make. And so we're just trying to understand, how you got to this place. Right. I'm forcing the frame of the moment itself and also dignifying the idea that, this is not who you are. There's a difference between murdering somebody and being a murderer. And so as heinous as it sounds,
You're helping save face.
you're helping say, yes. There was one guy, he had the interrogator, he said inside he was seething. It's seething because the crimes he had done were just,
Forgivable. Yeah.
like, you got to look at the files, you got to look at the photos, you got to look at all this shit. Part of my French. And then, talk to this person and treat them like a human being who made a mistake. And then they're not the mistake. And you start to kind of look at shame versus guilt, because shame is like a very identified, I want to shame you. You should be ashamed of yourself, which is also a emotion that is more likely to lead to suicide.
That right there is very important. That's if you were to ask me, Dan, with that group negotiators on demand, what is the one thing like a pimple from all the squeezing that's popped out? And it's guard yourself against guilt trips. They're everywhere. Man, people are just master guilt trippers, small to large. Even my buddy, he told me, he goes, yeah, being more aware of it. I was at the grocery line. I had 2 items. Oh, no, I had a full cart, and the guy behind me had 2 items. And, you can't help when you're in the line but to look back sometimes.
Yeah.
You couldn't help it because the guy was making sound effects like. So he said he looked back and he goes, oh, shit. He's kind of like trying to tell me, hey, buddy, I got 2 items. You got a whole cart. Why don't you just let me go? And he said, normally I would, especially if it was like a sweet old lady or something, but just something about his demeanor of entitlement. Like, he's normally that would work and I would go, oh, yeah, of course. Hey, you should cut in front of me. But he goes, I stopped at that moment and said, what am I getting out of this? He's going to guilt trip me with some that easy. He goes, yeah, guilt trips are that quick and easy.
Bro,
like you said, there's short term and long term. Guilt trip is definitely the short term tool. I think is the most impactful. If you need something quick, loss aversion, short term. If you want the long collaboration, you kind of got to get rid of the whole, you got an ultimatum to make here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think ultimatums they're mentioned in a lot of books and negotiation, communication. What are your thoughts on ultimatums?
So what I like about the language, my mother tongue English, is it's an opportunity to explore mind frame, how language influences mental frames. So like a language like Hebrew, or actually like Mandarin, they don't have what they call them, futureless languages. So they don't have a past, present, and future kind of language. It's like everything is as always, right? It's there. There's no yesterday, today, tomorrow. So they'll say yesterday it rained, today it rained, tomorrow it rained. We say yesterday it rained, today it's raining, tomorrow it will rain. All of that. So there's like these frames of segmentation. And so when we look about like when we say things like, you've made a mistake versus you've made the mistake, right? It's like the ultimate, you did the ultimate thing. And no one wants to feel like that because it sort of traps them in this eternal prison. I think that we can sort of create our own little boxes just with the way that we choose to see things. And so an ultimatum is like, this is the decision here. There's no way out, left or right, versus a decision along a continuum of decisions, along a continuum of things. It just feels different. It's like, well, how do these words kind of lock us in?
Did Ryan talk to you before the show?
We spoke.
Because
damn
it, did he tell you about no, he couldn't. This is too soon. I was telling Ryan that I've been noticing something with my wife and language and emotions. I have to tell her sometimes a thing 3 times. Right? I said it once. She goes, "What?" Say it again. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let me say it again. Oh, okay, I got it. Mm-hmm. It gets kind of tiring, as so now I say it once, and if I notice she's going to go into the pattern, I will say the same thing that I was going to say it, but in Spanish. And the buck stops there.
Wow.
And I seen her go like, and we even said, and we talked about it, and she goes like, I don't know what it is, but it just works. And Spanish is her second language, so it should not have any impact. So I'm going like, why am I deploying the same thing 3 times to you in English to get the same impact 1 time in Spanish? Maybe 2 at max.
Would you wow. Would you mind if there is something that supports
Well, they call Spanish the love language? Because that is their thing. Maybe that's what our only theory
I mean, it might be a little bit of that. You got the sauce on it, the sazon.
You know what it is? I noticed, and I talked to Ryan, and I think what it has to do is I notice my tone makes a shift when I go into my Spanish mode. It slows down almost like a cowboy. And she told me she has a thing for cowboy. So I think like subconsciously, when I put on the Spanish, it's almost like it doesn't matter what you say as much as how you say it.
Oh, absolutely.
And so if you got to put on a Spanish hat or a Hebrew hat, English hat, like, man, like each one has a different impact. Like with Mario, when he puts on a different hat, he can do a different thing.
Yeah. You got the mushroom, you got the fire plant, you got the, with the star. Absolutely.
So Ryan said, I wonder if Marshall ever wears, I'm going to say it right, ever wears the yelling hat, the angry hat. And like, you must, right, Marshall? Like there has to be utility to that hat. Somebody in the group calls it, sometimes you have to be the bear, put on the bear hat and go for the attack. Never works out well. You're going to get bloodied up. But there is that, a lot of men in this new generation, we'll call it the alpha gen, right? They want to know, hey, Marshall, when I get angry, man, I get my way, like this tone, have you ever experimented or do you ever utilize the assertive, aggressive?
Oh, yeah. So it is a matter of course, right? It goes back to the guy in the line. You're like, okay, you're hemming and hawing behind me. The first thing I'm thinking about is, well, if you don't have the courage to ask me to get anything, I'm not going to deny you the opportunity to be brave and ask. So if you don't want to be brave, you're gonna have to stand here and you're gonna have to cry. But it's a matter of being firm. Because assertiveness is very different from aggressiveness. Assertiveness is just being firm. Like I'm holding a position. If I pick up an object like this and I have to utilize it and I have to assert my will onto it to use it properly. If I'm like I can't use the tool, right? Like if I'm trying to bash, what am I doing? That's not how this works, right? And so, there's a precise amount of force that's applied, and it's the same thing that happens when someone's speaking, right? If I'm going to apply a certain amount of force that's precise, which usually comes across very differently than someone who's throwing force, but it is not going anywhere in particular. And that's how you sound when you're being aggressive. You're like, okay. And both of them have their effects and their consequences, right? One of those will heighten the situation and expend the energy of the person that's distributing it. Also kind of activate much more reactive defenses. Like if someone's moving very wildly and kind of spray and praying with their energy, people are going to pay attention to that, make decisions about that, about how they want to deal with it. When someone is making it very clear that their forces are very direct and, you know, what do you want to do now? That sends a different message. Both, and then that can escalate things too, because people can feel like, are you threatening me? Right? Like that. So I'm not suggesting that, like, yeah, if you're assertive, it doesn't mean that you can't get things going. But people think a little bit longer. Because if I'm being aggressive, there's not really much time to think. I'm going to start reacting because I don't know what you're doing. But if I'm asserting myself, that gives the other person a moment to think about what the next step's going to be. Like, what do you want to do now? Because it's like, you know, I guess it's like the difference between like two people that have a gun drawn on each other and it's aimed at you versus someone just started shooting, right? Like your reaction is going to be completely different here. And that to me is the difference between aggressiveness and assertiveness, if I were to use a crude metaphor.
And when you see most of, I imagine, hypothesize you have clients that you want to help with their tone. And I'm sure most of them, here, I'll just role play real quick. This is my wife's least liked tone for me.
Okay.
Marshall, come on, man, do you have like anything for, you know, like, I'm just trying to be more, I don't know. My wife thinks I just sometimes sound like I'm complaining a lot, and she like hates when I put on this whiny tone. But like, I'm just really trying to be understanding and accommodating. Like, I don't want to be a jerk, you know, I'm just trying to be cool and chill. I don't know why this is pissing you off. Well, because you sound, I don't know, you just sound like weak. I don't know. You just sound like a whiny. And so I'm very grateful she told me that, you know, we have that open communication. But there was a point where I was trying to be as accommodating as possible to the point where it became annoying for the counterpart. Is this, would you say, if you were to do a caricature of most of, I guess, the people that need help with tonality, is that what they look like? They have this whiny tone and they don't know, they're just complaining. Fix it for me.
Well, there's a couple of things I think that came to mind. You ever go to a restaurant and the waiters, they come to your table like 20 times? Everything's okay?
Yeah.
Is everything okay? Is everything okay? Is everything still okay? Still okay? It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. We need some water. Okay. And like, what do you feel? Like time 17. You're like, everything's fine. Get away from me. There's something about their uncertainty that sort of bothers us. It's like, are you okay? You can't do the job? Something bothering you? Like, what is it? Like, we're here. Should I be concerned? Because you're coming over here a lot. Like, you start, the subconscious is starting to wonder, like, why are we getting these notifications from the server over and over and over and over? The tone is like, yeah, you know, we're being accommodating from a place of uncertainty feels away to the person who's receiving it, because it's almost like you're suggesting that even if you do accommodate them, it's not going to be good.
You know, that connects to a whole book about hostage at the table. You need to be a strong source, and it points to Chris Voss' main thing about the biggest fear is the unknown. So what you're saying is, we'll call it a weak tonality or no tonality. can result in bad results.
Oh yeah. You're transferring that over. You're transferring your you know, we sample each other's tone as we listen. We're sending a signal and it's getting relayed back to us, through the auto acoustic, through all of this let's just take a moment just to look at the anatomy, right? Like, and you guys, this probably pictures required here, but you have hair cells in your ear that are moving in these spirals, right? And each of these spirals represent a certain frequency range. But before we get there, we have the eardrum, the little small bones that move through the cochlea and the vestibular system, which is basically like two UFOs inside of your head that are jiggling water or liquid, and those things keep both your balance to walk, but also are part of the listening system to support the vibration that is hitting your ear by air conduction. Now let's talk about bone conduction, which is just like sound hitting your bone, blah, 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 blah. This is a very sophisticated piece of machinery that is interpreting the outside world. You know what I mean? And so when we talk and we're sending signals out, right? We're sending a signal out. You're like, well, what is this signal? And what's the information beneath the signal? Because there's your words, but then there's the information in the signal, the color, the texture, the feel. And then if that person were to reflect that back to me, what would that do? And sometimes if I feel something from someone, I don't like that feeling of weakness that's coming out of you. I don't like it. Like if I'm sampling it, yeah.
It's like, is it lack of competence or confidence? Neither are good.
Absolutely. If you go, imagine, yeah, so there's your captain speaking. We have this flight, to Heathrow. And I'm happy to be flying this plane, and pretty decent at it. And we're gonna die. You're right? Like that's
You say something in I think it's the very first thing you say in Tonal Influence about, is it someone's heart rate that you're measuring, and just someone's voice raises the heart rate uncomfortably?
just talking.
Just talking,
Just communicating raises blood pressure. And they just found that out by accident with complicated machinery. They were like, oh, they found out how to check blood pressure electronically. And it was like, they were trying to figure out why everyone had hypertension. Like everyone was coming in with very horrible numbers. So when he started moving the variables, they were like, oh, don't say anything. Let's talk about that. And that's when the numbers went down and they realized just verbal discourse raises blood pressure. And so when you compile that on top of anything else that's bothering you, like you're already on a sub level, a little physiologically uncomfortable, right? Homeostasis is silence. Like some of your best friends in the world are the people that you don't even have to say a word. Y'all can sit there and say nothing, right? You don't gotta. So yeah, man. So you put that on top of, I'm sending a signal out. I'm demanding something of the other person's physiological system by having them respond to me. And not only did I send them a signal, but I sent them this weak signal. And now they're doubting my confidence. So not only have I affected or potentially affecting the physiological system, I'm demonstrating that like I'm not necessarily the safest person to be talking to right now. And these are like, it's like, what? I don't expect, who's thinking about this stuff on a daily basis, right? Unless your job, like you guys like negotiating on demand. I mean,
sales.
Sam.
Right. As we were preparing for this, I got
Yeah.
a phone call and I told Ryan, I'm sorry, this person's on me for 3 calls back to back.
Mhm.
I better pick that up, Ryan. Oh, that person's
Mhm.
angry. Yeah, sure enough, they were at a property and one of my teammates wasn't there.
Mhm.
So they were angry. Like, I've been here for a while, nobody's here. I call my teammate, he missed it, didn't see it. So
Okay.
I go, oh boy. Uh,
Yeah.
in the past, this is true, Marshall. In the past, this would have cost me $10. I would have zelled this person $10 for wasting their time and gas,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is fair. But I'm like, man, this is this is starting to add up at the end of the month. Little mistakes, and I'm paying $10, $10 here, $10 there. End of the month, I'm looking at $1,100 in
Right.
little tiny. And I go, there's got to be a way. And I noticed with the tonality, especially after reading the book, I really took it seriously. And so with this person being on my phone 3 times, I called him. I stayed calm, cool, collected. I told him about the new time, 3 p.m., which her response was, but it was for 10 a.m. I was doing it for 10 in the morning. Will you be able to make it at 3 p.m. today? You know what? Yeah, I can make it. Yeah, yeah, I'll be there. I mean, the area does seem nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Great, great. I noticed the message I sent to you bounced earlier. This is a good number to, I had to really kick in the tone, and it was just, she went from a hard, annoying, lame, frustrating person
Yeah.
to be more easy, more fun, and it's probably going to be a good deal.
There you go.
Yes, it saved me a lot of money just from it. It's a value. The tone, your ears and your voice have us. It can save a lot of people a lot of money with little things that add
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Of
Right, the,
course.
the voice with the tone and ears. Obviously, you got to listen.
Yeah.
Since you're a tone guy, I know it's probably an oriented question for you, but do you put talking before listening, or you do the listening then you do the talking, or for you it doesn't? You do more about the feel.
It's funny you mentioned the ear and the voice in that order, like when you said that, because there was a book that was read, was invited to the Palo Alto School District because the kids were committing suicide. And it was, not in the news yet, because that's where like all of the Google and like all the Silicon Valley businesses, that school district was where they sent their kids to school. So it was a public school district, but real estate, creme de la creme. And one school spoke there on Friday, get an email Sunday that a student from the other school had jumped Saturday night. And Monday, I'm supposed to be there. And they originally had me go to do some like poetry workshops and, just kind of, it was more to be just kind of getting the students to write about how they feel, just so that, it's like, okay, give them an outlet. There's no outlet right now. What is the outlet? When a student, and the way that they do it, that they'll go to the school and there's trains. So Saturday night, Sunday, somebody's out there cleaning up some kid that decided that we're done here. And that school particularly had a higher rate of that. So most of the research along the way was about the voice for my own vanity. Like, I started this stuff because I wanted to compete. And I figured that along with my ability to tell stories and weave words, having a great voice would be an asset. It slowly moved into psychology and personality and behavior, but this was different. This is like, what am I going to say now? And so I type in the ear and the voice, or yeah, the ear and the voice, because that's how I would research something. The blank and the voice. The blank and the voice. That was just my Google search was that for years. The blank and the voice, just to see how many things connect back. The Ear and the Voice happened to be a book written by Alfred Tomatis, won a Nobel Prize for what he discovered about the ear. And essentially the idea that we are a listening species, that we are designed to listen, and that is what makes us us. I never read a book so fast in my life. I had a flight and a car ride to ingest as much of this book as possible. For the first time, even thinking about the listening part as it related to communication, I didn't care. Up until that point, I cared about being the speaker and the one listened to. Read this book, get to the classroom, sat there, let the space fill up a little bit with just the noise of people in the room, the being, wound up singing a Kuna Matata somehow. And then the girl right here, she just hits the desk, starts crying, like a lot. So then there's a young lady. She was like the leader. She looks at me, looks at her, kind of gestures outside and just, and I know like right out the window, that's where the trains are. So a very poorly placed classroom, to be honest, but this girl lost her friend. We stopped singing. We put our arms on her shoulder. Just stood there for a little bit. That day changed the trajectory of what was being focused on, because it was something that no amount of talking was ever going to teach me. This idea that sometimes there isn't anything that you can say, that saying can be defeated.
Shit, does that make you more stoic? I feel like I'm this knowledge and pursuit of, more wisdom. Yeah, also has landed me into that zone of, more silence. It's just, I'm going, but I have a lot to say. Do you think your personality is morphing to like a stoic?
Man, I think it seems like it's a natural progression for the, all the knowledge people are like, the more I knew, the more I realized I didn't know. And it's like, or, being smart enough to play dumb sometimes. That was Tank Davis, boxer. He said, he goes, you're always with the shenanigans. He's like, yeah, he's like, dumb people can't play smart, but smart people can play dumb. And, well, what would somebody want to do that for? And sometimes it's just knowledge can be like a competition of like, I know something you don't know. And you ever think about like, why is it that some people don't? What is the term know-it-all, and why do people say it? Oh, you're a know-it-all. Like, why do people get angry with someone who wants to continue to bring knowledge? Oh, you think you know everything. What is the thought pattern? Someone says to you, you think you know everything. In your mind, you might go, I know I don't know everything. That's probably why I read books, I study. I know I don't know everything. I just happen to know this, and I'm trying to help you. Sometimes people don't want to know that they don't know, or they didn't want to know it from you. And then you're like, well, if that's the case, you're going to let the guy stand behind you and figure out what it takes to ask somebody, hey, can I jump in front of you? Because you give them the pass, then they don't learn. But if you say something to them in a way that's abrasive, then you might learn something else, like they want to fight. So then you start to kind of get into a place where you're like, sometimes people just have to learn things implicitly. Sometimes you have to learn things on their own.
Yeah,
Or
that's Bandura's social learning theory. You know, kids learned how to punch Bobo the Clown by watching a video, whereas the kids who didn't watch the video would go in there and arrest Bobo the Clown.
yeah,
Yeah, sometimes learning through observation is
Mm.
sometimes people learn through repetition.
mm, mm,
Right? And then sometimes when people say, "Oh, you think you're a know-it-all," now I'm at the point of, man, you're just projecting.
mm,
And in a deeper way, you are projecting my insecurity.
mm.
Somebody's like, or when I see something I don't like about someone, I'm like, oh, I'm just projecting a behavior about myself that I'm not aware of, that I'm probably guilty of, which is why that bad behavior is resonating with me. So then I'll start calling friends that know me and I go, hey, have I ever done XYZ behavior? And they go, like, yeah, all the time, man. It's annoying. I go, no fucking way. Here I am going at this person's an asshole for cutting this person over here or doing XYZ.
Yeah.
And then I call up a buddy and I go, hey, I've been guilty of it because this is triggering me. And they go, yeah, you've done that before. I go, oh, man. We're just projecting our own crap.
So it sounds like that, man. It sounds like that. You're like, this hit a nerve. This struck a chord with me. Like, because in my guitar, I've played that chord a few times. So I know what that feels like, etc., etc. I wonder though, because we can kind of wind up justifying other things based on the belief that our indignation is simply a reflection of, like, this is something I haven't internally dealt with yet. And I'm just very curious about the consequences of that. You're like, oh, well, you want to be able to speak your mind, let someone know that, a boundary may have been violated. So I'm curious, when you think about that kind of stuff, what are you looking for? What response would you prefer that made you say, hey, I'm gonna go investigate and call some people because of the response I gave? What's the response you would prefer?
I guess I prefer them saying, no, you don't ever do that. That person is an asshole. You should go tell them to knock that behavior off, that off. And so when they tell me, no, yeah, you do that too. I'm just like, well, am I going to sit myself down and have a talk with me in the mirror? And I know that's becoming a big thing right now. Talk yourself in the mirror. But then again, it's like, whoa, wait. That means that I have something negative to say about me, and that's a no-no because you want positive affirmations. And so then, yeah, I think a lot of people start, that cognitive incongruency. You're holding two opposing thoughts. One thought, the book, The Truth Detector. This is the best way I ever seen it. It was a participant woman studying to be an FBI agent, and then the FBI instructor, all about getting info from people, elicitation. And he made her cry when he said, he goes, you're a good mom. You think moms are good? And he goes, yeah, what makes a good mom a good mom? Moms are always with the kids, they're always there. And he goes, well, where are you right now? She goes, well, I'm in school. So you're not with your kid? No. Oh, fuck, that makes me a bad mom. Oh, I'm a bad mom. And she started crying. And then afterwards, he had to tell her, like, there was an experiment, but, to let you know, you're a good mom. You're coming here to the academy, to provide for your kid. You're doing good things. Like, you had to tell her, like, don't beat yourself up. You're not a bad person.
Yeah.
So I think many times we don't want to challenge ourselves. We don't want to duplicate ourselves like a counterpart. And hey, I'm going to have a negotiation with you, Dan. Like, that's loony bin talk there.
That it does seem like that. Yes, you have the people who talk to themselves out loud, and then you think about the idea that we talk to ourselves all day anyway. And if we're not talking to ourselves, there is memories that are triggered by thinking about remembering something that was said, even if that memory is fractured, etc., etc. The It's interesting, the analogy you bring forward, because it was like, what is a good mom? A good mom is always there for her kids. Where are you now? Well, I'm here, so you're not a good mom. That's the to one. It's the trap of English that I think about, because it was like her brain couldn't fathom. However, it was like we needed layers of reframe in order to make it make sense. But then you start to think about, what does it mean to be with people? Because sometimes we look at proximity as the rule of being with someone, but we keep people with us. We keep people with us by the memories that we hold of them, and the thoughts that we have of them, even when we're not there physically. And so you start to we start to kind of play around with, like, what is or is not good or bad. And then you start to look at, what is the metric here? Is the metric, how many hours I sat at my desk? Like, how many people measure their worth as far as their business based on how many hours they sat at the desk, and not like how efficiently they sat at the desk and got the job done, right? If I can convince you that the time is 10 hours a day, that's why you get paid this amount of money an hour. Or listen, I can flip this in about 30 minutes, and it would probably be good for you to get on with it. Yeah, cool. So this is the fee. It's just the measure, how we're measuring. Good and bad are they're very large words when you think about them. They're big words. They're little words, but they're big words. It's like, good means bad means. You zoom out and you're like, well, what's good? What are we looking at this against? What are we weighing this against? Is it time? Is it physical distance? Is it probability? Is it social rank? Like, well, what's good? And I don't know if we always have the time to think these things through. We live in a very fast-paced world with a lot of demand on our attention, and a lot of things that could take our attention away from even considering what we're measuring our lives against. How much time do we have to go? 1 cubic grams for our own lives. 9 times out of 10, all of us, we're going to get off this call. We're going to grab a device, or maybe not right now, but today we're going to pick it up, and there's going to be 20,000 possible parallel universes that all want us to think that they're significant by hitting a like, a thing, a touch, a response, a text, So it takes a certain amount of time, which it sounds like you and your group spend time processing, examining why, how, doing it over and over again, and getting better at it as time moves on. And that's all we can really ask for, is the opportunity to iterate, the opportunity to go back into the dojo and go again, to simulate and go again. Because the world is moving in the speed of what they care about, and they don't have time to stop for you. Just like that guy, we don't have time to teach you how to say, hey, can you let me through because I gotta go? Because that was really a simple thing.
Hey, it was.
Yeah, Like, look, if I got my own groceries. I got to get to where I got to go. If you making all them sounds behind me is just agitating me. But I'm instead of being agitated, I'm just gonna like ignore you and keep on with it. As an example, you know. So yeah.
Right. You got anything? Looking very pensive.
It's powerful stuff, man.
And I know you brushed up on your topic of expertise, suicide. Yeah, you work for the suicide hotline. I'm sure.
Yeah, that was
I wanted to
pretty heavy.
ask you, Ryan, when he was talking about that on the suicide hotline, would you say the general tone of your counterpart is that whiny tone that we were kind of saying it aggravates the counterpart? Or are they calling you just real slow and sad, or are they angry and like?
I mean, you never know what you're going to pick up the phone to. Quite often, it's people who have like a build up of carrying around like heavy emotions. Sometimes it might have been something awful had happened immediately prior to the call, and they're very like fast paced and kind of working through their thoughts and their emotions. But yeah, alternatively, they might be quite kind of flat, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you can pick up to anything really.
But they don't sound very happy or positive. Hey, Ryan, everything's great. No, just a little terrible situation back there. That's it. You ever had anybody like you're like, whoa, hey, your tone's not matching your situation? Because I always wonder about that. So people have that half smiley face and they're like telling you something, and you're like, they sound excited about it, but what they're telling you is horrible, and you're like,
Oh,
the fuck is he smiling for?
right.
Damn it.
Like, yeah. I was thinking, I think today's the day, think today is I got this shotgun here. It's about to put it in my mouth and make it go. But you're like, that doesn't sound like somebody that's either going to do it, nor does it sound like some, you know what I mean? So it sounds like what you're asking is a question of tonal incongruency.
Yeah.
Do you have that experience, Ryan? Like where there's just like where you're wondering sometimes if people are actually calling the line because they have a problem, or just calling the line because they have nothing better to do.
Oh,
have you ever had those kind of experiences?
Yeah, I mean, you'll always have to take everything seriously because you never know, right? And
Right.
it's so tough because I can't like confidentiality.
Right.
I can't really talk about things on the
well,
line.
he did tell us something, and I'll delete it if it's not. I remember Ryan said this one stuck with me, where he said that oh gosh, it was about that half the male callers are actually wanting to get
Don't say
that. Damn it, that's a good one. That's the one I heard.
Yo, yeah. That's what's up. I'm with you. Confidentiality is a thing. I get it.
How about you, Marshall? Is there any
any violation of NDAs that you can do?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure. Like, is there anything NDAs you can violate first, real quick? If there was, though, what would it be for you? I don't know.
If there was something that you could say that you wouldn't be able to say, tonal incongruency. Well, tonal incongruency is a great tool, though, to for the user. You're like, yep. So, the car's been totaled. Yes, the insurance is going to take about 6 months and all you're doing is just, you're not revving your own engine. We empathize with ourselves too. So if we make a sound are, you know, you're gonna process that back. Like, what's that? And sometimes we're not even upset at the person. We're upset that we're upset. You know, we're sad because we're sad. Which sounds it sounds super meta. Like we're sad because
No,
we're
no,
sad.
no. Yeah, I did a whole study in grad school about traffic lights and speed cameras because I hate them. But I learned something valuable. Did you know a speed camera at intersection one, as
Yeah.
you drive by it and you become aware there's a speed camera, you actually drive really careful for the next 4 intersections?
Mm.
Did you know that? So
No.
yeah, and so that made me, studying communication. It made me more aware of the carryover effect. And let's say I just started talking to you, Marshall. Let's say you're a normal person. Not that you're abnormal, but you're superhuman. All
Yeah,
right. Um, you might have just had a bad conversation with somebody literally a minute ago, and I just so happened to be the next one in line, and you're carrying over this, rollover from, hey, I just saw this speed camera. I'm being
yeah.
very careful of what I
Mm.
say, what I do.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the counterpart takes it personally.
Mm. They that's interesting. It reminds me of effective something called effective spillover. And it's a very real thing, where you're like, we feel like something just happened, like the way Ryan was describing as well. Right before I got on this call, something happened, and that person is still thinking about it. And that thought process is influencing the behavior of the phone call, just like the speed camera. I thought about it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm aware that my speed's being monitored. Now I'm thinking about my behavior. The challenge, of course, I think that most people want to figure out is how to turn that off when it's important. Like I have to do a pitch. I cannot think about the fact that my brother's house burned down yesterday.
Oh, sorry to hear that much.
Oh, right. That was a hypothetical, but damn,
Ah,
thank you for the empathy. I was like,
Gee,
I
yo,
thought something really had happened just before this call. I was like,
oh, fair
the
enough. But
sympathy firefighter, Ryan. Jeez.
you, bro, yeah, shit, he jumped
He's
in
quick.
like,
He
bro,
jumped on that.
yo, but but some,
That's good.
but that's what's powerful though is he just said in his training he has to take everything
Seriously. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
like
wow.
that just happened. So, bro, there's a shit. It's like jujitsu or any like thing. It's like boom. These are the trained response. Like, yo, my bad. But to that point, you know, um, bringing our breakfast to the boardroom, for lack of a better term. It's like, when someone says, "Who pissed in your cereal?" Would we are assigning that clearly something before this happened that you're coming in here with a funk because we didn't do anything to you, right?
Do you know what my kids are obsessed with right now? This Disney movie called Joy, and it's about a person's head, and they have all these little characters. You have anger, you got fear, you got joy,
Yeah,
you got sadness,
yeah.
and they're all taking turns at the hem of the wheel, and it's
Mm.
fun. My daughter the other day, she's like, "Oh, that's my core memory." And I go, "What the hell does a 3-year-old know about core memory?" It's the movie, is what they're teaching. But the other one, the 2-year-old, she's going, "I feel sad." I go, "Wow, this Disney movie is actually showing the kids how to label their own emotions."
Mm. Hmm.
And I think that's pretty. I think adults should watch that movie.
Hell yeah.
It's like, do you really want to be angry? Like, wouldn't you rather have joy at the helm of the wheel?
Hmm. 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 Man, yeah. The what was it? Both of those films. I didn't see the first one. I saw the second one. But yeah, it hits you, especially if any of those things relate or hit you, you're like, yo. And allegedly, they said some sort of they had some sort of psychologist on their team. Disney really took it seriously to bring as much animation to some of these cognitive processes as possible, emotional processes as possible. So yeah, I'm with you on that. It makes you wonder, like, just where education comes from. Like what educates people more. That's the stuff that we learn at school at a certain point, or like a movie like was it Inside Out or whatever that is.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. That's wild. That's wild. Your 3-year-old is like hitting you with the like DSM-5 right quick. Like, yo,
Yeah.
more memory. Like, what does that even mean?
I'm like, I learned that in grad school. What are you talking about?
Right,
I
bro.
had to sit and watch the movie, and I was like, "Well, this is impressive."
Yo, facts. That's powerful, isn't it? But I mean, they suggest that every generation of if is supposed to mature faster, they learn faster. They're supposed to. Um,
Yeah, as my wealthy buddy who was killing his weeds, he goes, "Yeah, I have to burn it this way, but then like the next generation is going to come stronger." And 5 minutes prior to saying that, he was talking about how his son is the smartest person he's met and just like supersedes him. And
mm,
I'm going like, wow, we're no different than this weed you're killing here, where the next generation is. Yeah, so I'm very excited to see, my kids and what they can do with these tools. They're curious about emotions.
mhm, mhm.
So,
Well,
a question for you, Marshall. You mentioned earlier in the conversation about battle testing of ideas.
Mhm.
yeah,
How are you battle testing your ideas these days?
So I have a coffee group that I meet with every Friday. We meet 6 in the morning, and we talk about everything. And it's an environment where spirited debate can take place. Lots of times it does. Um, there's opportunities. So like, hey, I'm noodling this. What do you guys think about this? And it's an open forum to interrogate. Like, here's a thought. Um, and then um, jujitsu is another place it's just to avoid separating thought process from physical process. It's like, okay, test the assumption. Is this pattern what I think it is? Okay. All right. Uh, and so most of the time I am. I mean, even in any conversation, like, this is a podcast for sure. And usually the podcast format is like, we have invited an expert to talk about how they know everything about what we asked them. But I'm okay with, like, I mean, there's some pushback on that, or actually, I don't really see it that way, or et cetera, because that's like no
well, yeah.
one's
What
here.
would be your most dreaded question from a fucking podcaster? You're like,
Yo,
God damn it, I hate. Got me with that one. What is it?
um, hmm, I want to think like some pot. So I'm gonna have to, like, I'll put that question in the background because I don't really think that I've been like, that was annoying, or it was an annoying question. Um, because I think it's not so much. I was talking to my lady about this yesterday. So, we kind of have this assumption that any question that's asked of us has to be answered. Like, I don't know where that came from. I don't know. So it was because we were noodling something, and I found myself, the more that I was trying to think of a canned response, I was actually more frustrated by thinking that I had to do that. Then I was like, oh, I'll just say whatever comes to mind when the question comes. Um, and that's the only way, because otherwise it's just, this premeditative. Now, don't get me wrong. You have there's responses that we learn, right? Like, like for example, when you learn about like mirroring and labeling and all these kind of things. But the beauty of that thing is that you're being fed inputs to return. You can only label based on the inputs that were given to you. So you can't assume what you're going to label. You can't assume what you're going to summarize, and you can't assume what you're going to mirror. You kind of have to be prepared for this person to say anything, because you got to summarize what they said, right? Like,
That's why a lot of people, when they meet the system coming from Harvard, they struggle. And Voss said it best. He goes, it's because you're playing a game of chess where the board springs every 3 moves. And so, yeah, you can't do a prep sheet of, this is going to be my paraphrase, this is going to be my summary.
Right.
You're going to, maybe you want to walk into the room and give instead of walking into the room to take. That sounds horrible. There's a book my old broker made us read called Go Giver. You got to go around giving. I'm going like, that's tiring. I'm like, gotta go give. I'm like, I don't even have anything for me. You want me to go give? Like, I get religion, 10%. Literally this 2024, what's been a drastic thing for me is getting away from scarcity into abundance. And I see it with my team members at work. One literally told me, he goes, I don't know why I'm like so frustrated about this. He's like, I know I'm being greedy and I want it all. I go, yeah, man, that's scarcity, dude. It'll do that to you. Why don't you collaborate with the guy, split some commission, get used to it, and, stick and move. Go get more deals. It's okay to collaborate. Because now you're just it's going to get stale. You get stuck with that. Like, this is mine. This is all me. And what does the Buddha say? Sufferance is attachment, the root of sufferance. Which, my answer to that is, well, that's what you want to tell a group of people so they don't complain about wanting more food.
Yo.
So it's like, this incongruency battle every time of I want to be a good guy, but YouTube keeps feeding me videos about, hey, you need to be more evil if you want to be a successful business person.
Right. We see that. Like, oh, goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's like you can't help it, and it's telling you things like, well, if you want to get to heaven, you got to, dig those roots deep to hell. You got to be a little bad. You got to get out the comfort zone. Yeah. What would you do if you were in that grocery line with 2 items and the guy in front of you has a full shopping cart? You want to go ahead of him. Now it's like, that is I think many people find themselves in that situation. How do I ask? How do I get in front without coming off as a go-taker, as entitled?
So it's funny that you say that, because you're like, well, what would you do as that person? Because the hemming and hawing, like that's, come on, bro. So if I'm behind somebody, hey, would you mind if I just hop in front of you? I have these 2 items and I'll be out of your way. But those are the things that it takes courage, because you kind of know that you weren't there first. Like, that this person beat you to the line. So you decided to take whatever route you took to the line led you to this place. And so now you have to appeal to this person's good graces and their mercy. But if you're like, then sort of, basically what you want somebody, oh, I'm sorry. Are you inconvenienced that I'm here with my 42 items in front of you? Like, let me just, like, no, but I think that people, when has someone, I've had that opportunity many times. No one's ever told me no. Well, no. They already know they're about to be there for a good 15 minutes. If their cart is full, they know that block of time has been siphoned off. And if you shopped to buy that much, 9 times out of 10, you're not in a rush. Someone that spent enough time to fill a shopping cart in a store, That's pretty much what they're doing today. Errands and chores. When you're going to the supermarket to do the hop, skip, and a jump, yeah, I got couple items, I got a couple stuff, I'm ready to go. So with that in mind, if you're gonna feel like you're a minor inconvenience or whatever, you're gonna talk like that. You're gonna sound like that too, where you're like, oh, I'm a burden that I'm even asking. But if you're like, hey, I'm gonna jump in, I'll be out your hair. Boom, boom, boom. They let you go. Because they're like, yeah, they know. They look at it, I'm gonna be here for a little while anyway. It's okay. You know, they might not let 2 or 3 or 4 people by, but that one person that had the courage to ask, that person will get a pass. Right. Now, for anyone listening, do not take this, whatever the disclaimers are, it's like a guarantee. Marshall said that if I just ask, they'll always, you might have that one person that today is the day. And they go, no, you're going to have to wait. And then, you just do with it as you will. But more often than not, you recognize that they beat you to the line. Don't act like they're the problem. Don't talk to them like they're the problem. The problem is you just want to get on with
Oh,
it.
that's the famous Buddha story where there's somebody on a dock in his little boat, and there's a little boat coming towards him, and the guy in that little boat, and he hits him, and he gets up and he goes like, "Hey, you piece of shit! Like, you hit my boat. Look what you did."
Yeah.
And then the mentor goes, "All right, same situation. There's nobody in that boat." I would not get angry. I'd be like, "Oh man, boat ran into my boat. Now I got some damage. How can I fix this damage? What's up with this?" You know what I mean? Like, my thinking was totally different, and it got me really thinking of the as you said earlier about proximity to somebody.
Mm.
That has so much effect. Yeah. Why is it that I behave different when there's somebody in the boat than when there isn't somebody in the boat? Does it boil down to accountability? Am I that petty of a tyrant? I need to hold everybody accountable. Do I have no emotional regulation? Like, in my head, I started yelling at the guy instead of being zen about it.
Instead of setting the frame with your tone.
Set the frame, right? Yeah. The frame. Oh, there seems to be an accident here.
Yeah.
Right. And then get to it. Well, speaking of setting the frame, I like to set the frame for exit. These 5 minutes are all yours. I see you have mind, body, speak. I mean, if you want to speak on that or anything, 5 minutes or your call.
5 minutes straight. Just here's the yo, no.
And I can cut out the pauses. So if you want to, like, the 15-second thought, then.
Nah, man, it's so yeah, mind, body, speak is exactly what it sounds like. I make sure that people's mental models and physical models are congruent because the voice will print them out. So what you're thinking and what your body is feeling, your intentions and your thoughts, they will emerge with your tone. And that's really the long and short. I train people's ear to listen to other people's thinking based on what they're hearing. And it gives people the insight and a little bit more capacity to read minds. It will seem that way, but also get past the layers that we will usually put up, especially when we're meeting people that are new or in an environment that is uncomfortable. We have protective layers in our communication that are audible, and the faster we can identify them and acknowledge them, the faster we can get to the root of whatever we're talking about, which then leads to, execution or the acknowledgement that we disagree beyond repair, and, we must go elsewhere. But at the end of the day, beginning of the day, the middle of the day, any time of the day, I wonder what's so special about at the end of the day.
Hebrew, the day.
Right. I don't know. I think at every time of day, this is important. But we're essentially communicating to some end of behavioral change and being clear about what that is and being able to, find your collaborators, identify your competitors, and get on with it. So that's my spiel about mind, body, speak.
Identify
And you do
competitors and collaborators.
and you do this via like one-to-one coaching groups. What kind of?
Oh yeah, so one to one, and then with businesses. So I have the model has been B2C is usually one person, and then B2B with organizations and groups and things like that. Just bringing it in for different levels of management, change management, new leadership, people that are that used to have a team of 5, and now they have a team of 500. There's certain processes that change when those things change behaviorally. And so the focus is in those particular demographics, but I am exploring some more B2C group ideas. But let's just work with what we're working with right now.
Second edition of Tonal Influence on the horizon.
Oh snap! So
or any other projects?
Yeah, so writing the Tonal Influence as a book, my intent was to make it a living document. And because each page is a single chapter, it's just about collecting ideas. And once there's enough ideas that are collected, that can substantiate creating a volume 2, then, just make the book a little longer and, add that in. So that if there's any writing projects or anything that I'll be focusing on in that regard, it'll be about continuing to expand on those ideas and giving more people access to things to consider and add to their toolbox.
I really like your last sentence. It really ties well with the book about always communicating behavioral change. That's the only thing we are after. It's behavioral change. And identify competitors and collaborators. When you identify a competitor, for us, we only see 2 routes to it. One, you can convert them into someone that's easy and fun, not easy or fun to do. Or you can just, you have to cut them off completely. And collaborators, you got to nurture them. That's big.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. We don't nurture our competitors. Like,
yeah, right. You said you had a competitor in the beginning and you did it kind of out of, you said out of some emotion that wasn't very positive, but you were like, I'm going to do my own. And now that you're in it, you're like, yeah, I'm glad I decided to compete against you have to, many people don't like hearing it or saying it, but you have to villainize something or somebody in a way. It's even in the Bible, right? You got to annihilate your enemy, extinguish them. And so, yeah, I like what you said. Many of us are hanging out with our worst enemies, and we don't know that they're, picking at us every day. It's kind of like being in the line, like, well, yeah, go ahead, you can cut me. Oh, well, right. Go ahead, I'll take your call. Yeah, you're going to complain for an hour? All right, I'll listen.
Yeah, deciding how you say it about nurturing, empathy is expensive. Empathy is very expensive. There has to be and just like anything else, right? Like Warren Buffett doesn't just give away millions of dollars, right? He could, but he doesn't. Methodical. So would you prefer me to just randomly do things in life? Just randomly? Is that what you prefer? I could, but would you prefer that? Or would you prefer to know that there's A, B, C, D, E, I think with socially, the challenge with that is like once someone identifies a frame, like, oh, you're a psychologist or something, what's the first thing they think about? are you psychoanalyzing me right now?
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
That's the first thing that like, you're definitely, what are you doing?
I'm sure you were
Right.
psychoanalyzing you, analyzing me when I was telling you
Yeah.
about grad school. I did not finish grad school. I dropped out. And it's related to what you kind of said there, Marshall. One of the last things professor said in my last semester, and I go, man, yeah, I'm out. He goes, a lot of you are in this program so you can put MA on your emails, masters,
Mm,
right? He goes, a lot of you are doing it for that ego reason. And he goes, I'm here to tell you, and I'm going to tell you that, believe it or not, that's actually going to get in the way of a lot of your communication because people are
mm,
going to see you like, oh, he has an MA. I better put my guard up. He's going to be doing
right.
tactics, which led to a big fallout. One of my negotiating friendships, where somebody said, you really should not put negotiations coach on your LinkedIn because I do real estate. And if somebody in my real estate competitor sees that, they're going to automatically put up, walls and make it more difficult for me. And I've read stories of where that is the case, right? People will want to see you go down. Like, oh, look, I took out a Goliath. I'm just a David with a slingshot. Look what I did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I guess that's why it was really cool seeing you, seeing that footage again when you were up there in 60 seconds or she dies. I'm like, yeah, of course, Goliath is going to smash David here. But then he was keep moving. He kept moving. He kept moving. And then towards the end, he just went, took him down.
Mm,
I go, wow, yeah. He stayed confident, stayed in the pocket, well trained. You counted, you relied on your training. You didn't break character and go, hey man, that's personal. No, he
mm,
called me stupid because when he told you, he goes like, yeah, you heard me. What are you dumb?
mm,
Something like that. And yeah, I've seen that in mocks where he goes, no, that's personal.
mm,
Like, you
mm.
think I'm really dumb? Like, dude, it's a role play. It's chill.
Yo, right. Yo, fighting words, ready to go for sure, man, bro. Hey, man, I appreciate that. It's yeah, that competition, that sensation. It's interesting that you said that too about your partners. Listen, bro, you said 5 minutes, we're out. We like you just like you opened up a can of worms and like have it was like, oh, hey, we can roll out and I'm not in a rush. I'm just acknowledging the idea that you bringing that up just open up a whole other can of just thought and discussion, and that might be beyond the time frame that you set. So um I will just say this then, that your real estate partner, friend, bringing that forward is an interesting thing about the psychology of whatever titles or whatever we present ourselves to be. And it takes courage even in that, because once you identify yourself as something, you have to acknowledge that that identifier, there is a counterpart that is an antagonist to that. No matter what it is that you do, no one's going to identify themselves as something that does not have an antagonistic counterpart, an enemy to some degree. And if we're okay with that, if we're okay with that, that's really the beginning of making sense of any of these other skills. It's first the courage to put yourself and say, this is who I stand to be. Not everybody's going to like me. Not everybody's going to like it. And some people, because they know it, they're going to try to make things difficult for me.